Good afternoon, everyone. During a briefing last week and many other times before, I said the health and safety of Missourians is our first priority. This will always be true for me as governor. And I also said that we must begin to increase our focus on economic recovery as we move forward. When we developed our Show Me Strong recovery plan, we based this on 4 essential pillars to give us a benchmark going forward: testing, PPE, the healthcare system capacity, and public health data. Reopening the economy was especially dependent on healthcare system capacity, and we have met that pillar. The other 3 pillars, we are also critical to reopening, and we continue to monitor those on a daily basis. As I said yesterday, testing will continue to be a priority as we move forward. We have the testing capacity, and now we must find ways to use that capacity to test as many people as we can. Since March the 7th, we have tested over 154,000 Missourians that have been tested for COVID-19. Of these tests, approximately 90% have tested negative. Of the roughly 11,000 positive cases, the vast majority have not been hospitalized and have recovered at home. Today, I think we approximately have a little over 700 people in hospitals in the entire state of Missouri. Within the next week, our goal is to significantly increase our testing numbers by performing 7,500 tests per day. Again, it is critical to understand that the more tests we do, the more positive cases there will be. By increasing testing, we can continue to slow the spread by identifying positive patients and isolating them as quickly as possible. The testing that we're doing today, it seems like every month we're trying to catch our breath with something, how we deal with COVID-19. But the more tests we can do today also prepares us more for this fall. When the school systems open up, when the universities open up, when flu season gets here again, it's important that we do as much testing prior to that so we're prepared for that when people go out in that season and just try to figure out, do I have the flu, do I have the COVID-19? The more that we can do ahead of time, the better off we are. So there's a short-term goal of getting those tests done on a daily basis, but the long-term goal is to prepare for the future of the state and for Missouri to move forward. And as we move forward, testing will be critical to Missouri's full economic recovery and giving Missourians more confidence to be out. Once our testing numbers are up, we can really start to ramp up our focus on the economy. Along the lines of economic recovery, I'd like to talk about the budget today. COVID-19 is unlike anything we have ever faced before. It has had devastating impacts not only on public health, but also the economy and state revenues. As a result, we have to take a hard look at our budget and make some very difficult decisions. As we go through the budget process, as we go to just the remainder of the year, that there will be withholds that will be taking place in the next week to 10 days to get us through just this year. It's important that I get as much information out as I can to where we are financially in the state of Missouri, so people understand the choices that will have to be made and the tough decisions that will have to be made in the near future. Yesterday, I met with my own cabinet members throughout the state to tell them somewhat to expect and start to making adjustments to that, to start putting a plan in each department of what we're going to do as to cut expenses in state government. And everything's on the table to be able to do that. Tomorrow, I will talk to the cabinet member, or to the universities, through DESE, to the community colleges across the state, to explain where I believe the state is going and what we're going to have to do to balance the budget in the upcoming days. I do believe on July 1, withholds will take place throughout the state. I think The exception to that is if the federal government comes in with more resources and, for better terms, another CARES Act that comes in. But if that doesn't come in, then we are a long way from having the money that we need to move into 2021, and significant decisions will have to be made as we move forward. And I think it's important that we understand that we're the reality of it as of today, so people can prepare. And we are going to be talking that in the next several days and a week, so where we'll be on that. We do have federal funds available under the CARES Act, which will help. But there will still be challenge ahead as we work to recover the economy. As we work through this process, I want Missourians to know that we will be transparent as possible. On April the 10th, I established an informal working group led by State Treasurer Scott Fitzpatrick to help make recommendations on the best use of our federal funding. The working group's second meeting will take place on Thursday. Members of the public can watch a live stream of this meeting on the Treasurer's Facebook page. The Treasurer's Office has also established a web page to provide updates on the working group and the CARES Act funds. We hope that by providing this information and updating the public will reassure Missourians that we are working hard to make every dollar count for the people of this state. Earlier today, I was on the phone with a lot of the county executives around the state of Missouri, county commissioners. Weekly, we're on the phone call with mayors, making sure that these funds are getting out as soon as possible, that are getting the local levels and getting distributed out there from that. That's important for us to get that done with the way things are in the state, and we're going to continue to push hard with that. We're going to continue to make sure that the general public, you, the media, know exactly when that money is coming in, exactly when it's going out the door, because it is critical to get it out on a timely basis and get it to the local levels. And I want to thank the State Treasurer for the work he's done to put this program together and to be able to make sure that the people out of the state of Missouri know exactly what we're doing with that CARES Act funding. Another department that hasn't been up here, a lot of my directors have been up here early on today. Director Zellers is going to be here to give us a little update with the Department of Revenue, some of the things that are going on in his agency. So I'd like him to come forward and give us a little update. Director?
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. I'm Ken Zellers, Director, Missouri Department of Revenue. I want to start by thanking Governor Parson, his staff, and cabinet members for their steadfast leadership and constant advocacy on behalf of Missouri citizens, businesses, and communities. I also want to thank all State of Missouri team members for their unwavering dedication to public service throughout COVID-19. From the very beginning, the Department of Revenue has made every effort to adjust our policies and procedures in a way that allow us to continue serving the people of Missouri while ensuring everyone's health and safety. 2 months ago, the department announced changes related to tax, motor vehicle, and driver's licensing to help ease customer concerns and promote social distancing. We provided automatic special tax relief to individuals and corporations by extending several filing and payment deadlines, including those associated with individual and corporate income tax, to July 15th of 2020. We took steps to help alleviate congestion in local license offices. As a part of these efforts, we granted an automatic 60-day extension for Missouri driver's licenses, non-driver licenses, and instruction permits with original expiration dates of March 1st, 2020 through April 30th of 2020. Vehicle owners with registrations or license plates expiring in March and April were granted an automatic 2-month extension. Individuals with license plates that expired in March of 2020 will have until May 31st to renew their license plates without paying a late penalty at a license office. Similarly, those with license plates that expired in April of 2020 will have until June 30th to renew without paying a late penalty. Although the automatic penalty waiver for title applications expired on April 30th, contract license offices have been instructed to continue waiving title penalties for applicants who were unable to title their vehicle in March or April due to COVID-19. Any customer who wasn't able to title their vehicle in March or April due to COVID-19, but was assessed a title penalty after April 30th, may request a refund by filling out Form 426 and submitting it to Department of Revenue. Now, I'd like to share a bit about where we are currently in our recovery process. We are pleased to report that all but 3 of our more than 170 contract license offices across the state have reopened. These offices are working hard to assist customers safely and efficiently. That said, we know there are a lot of Missourians trying to renew their license plates and driver's licenses at this time. We continue encouraging customers to renew their plates earlier in the month and consider using our online renewal system, which is fast and convenient way to experience the Department of Revenue from the comfort of your own home. We are also pleased to share that 4 of the 6 tax assistance offices have reopened their doors to walk-in customers. These include the offices in Cape Girardeau, Jefferson City, Joplin, and Springfield. Only the offices in Kansas City and St. Louis remain closed to walk-in customers at this time. The department considered factors such as county data and the local stay-at-home orders before deciding to reopen an office. Also on the tax front, we have received and processed approximately 2.5 million individual income tax returns. This is about 358,000 less than the same time last year, but we know this is largely due to the filing extension. Our team members continue working quickly to process returns and, of course, get the refunds out the door. Throughout COVID-19, the department has never stopped looking for new ways to serve our customers. Just last week, we began piloting virtual lobbies in our motor vehicle and driver's licensing division offices in the Truman Building and in the Jefferson City Tax Assistance Office. With this new system, customers can be notified by text when it is their turn to be assisted, allowing them to hold their place in line while waiting in their car, outside the building, or just somewhere where they might feel a little bit more comfortable. We're also regularly working to expand the knowledge base of our 24/7 virtual assistant chatbot, Dora. Since launching on November the 2nd, Dora has provided more than 614,000 responses to customers. We consistently see about 30% of those user sessions occurring during non-business hours. We have a variety of other online resources and services which can all be found on our website at dor.mo.gov. And finally, the health and safety of our customers and team members remain the Department of Revenue's top priorities. We will continue to be flexible, adapt as necessary, and use the data to guide our decisions as we move forward in the recovery phase. Thank you.
Ken, thank you very much. Thanks for what you're doing in your department, and thank all the employees to make sure they know that I appreciate what they do and be working through this whole entire time for what you did. I appreciate that very much on that. Let me just kind of conclude here, and then Dr. Williams is here also for questions today if you has. But let me just finish up by saying there's no doubt that there will still be challenges ahead, but I want to assure Missourians we are on the right track. We're headed in the right direction. Our economy's coming back, and thank goodness, I'll say it again, we're better off than many states in the United States because of what we represent in this state, because people are really trying to go out there and do the right thing and understand how important it is for people to go back to work. We've got a holiday weekend coming up. It's going to be a big holiday weekend. It's our first one since all this started. Everybody's eager to get outside. But again, I just want to caution everybody to be careful. Use social distancing is a key to the future of this, and it's a future to fight this virus. I know everybody's going to want to get together. You're going to get with your families. Everybody's going to want to be outside. But again, just do it with caution. Use common sense, which I know one thing in Missouri we value very much, and that's just personal responsibility and common sense, because that's what we have to get through this weekend. We got to avoid things like large crowds. You got to be careful about that, over that. And then just keep in mind, This is a critical time for our state. This is going to be the first large weekend that we have. St. Louis just opened back up. Kansas City's opening back up. Our entire state is. We do not need a setback right now. So everybody's got to do their part, and you got to know who's high risk and who's not. And you got to act accordingly to how you're going to conduct yourselves. And I have every confidence that Missouri will do that, and they will stay the course and move forward. So with that, let me just say thank you, and God bless to everybody that's listening. Kelly? Ken?
Good afternoon, Director. We've heard from some of our viewers who said that when they have tried to now renew their license plates, that they're being assessed that $50 late penalty, the plates that were due in April when they've gone online. Did you say that they can only renew them in person at this point to avoid that penalty?
Yes, thank you for the question. So the reason that it's only in person is because the way the system is set up online is to automatically charge the late fee. So if they do show up to the office and they tell the office that they were not able to renew due to COVID-19, that they will actually receive that refund right there at the office. They will not be charged at the office.
If they've paid it online, is there a way that they can get that late penalty fee back?
Yes, there is. As I mentioned, I believe it was called Form 426, and all they have to do is go online, get the form, and when you fill it out, at the bottom, there's a little notation at the bottom that asks for the reason. There's like 3 or 4 reasons that are listed, and the bottom reason says not listed above. All you have to do is fill out the reason, put on there, and send it in, and we will refund the money.
Thank you.
Hi, Director. You mentioned that you're still working really hard to get tax refunds out to people. Are you experiencing any bigger delays than you usually would, or is it kind of like business as usual right now?
As far as we're concerned, it's business as usual. We have virtually no backlog. It's about 24 to 48 hours to turn a return around. Of course, there are always those that require a little bit more attention that have to be done manually, but right now, business as usual.
And do you expect that as we get closer to the extended deadline, do you expect that backlog to rise at all, or are you just continuing to see it stay pretty steady?
I expect it to stay pretty steady. I do not expect a backlog. Every year we process right around 3.1 million returns, and we're at about 2.5 million this year. We have about 600,000 to go. We receive anywhere from 40 to 50,000 a week, and we can handle that.
You mentioned that all but 3 of the contract license offices are open. Where are those 3?
Those 3 are located in Cape Girardeau, Olivet, which is a little bit north of St. Louis, and New London, which is about halfway between St. Louis and Iowa on the Mississippi River.
And are you seeing, based on the data you have, are people actually spreading out their appointments, or is this going to create more congestion when they have a new deadline?
From what we've seen, we try to be the model here in Jeff City. They are spreading out. In order to prepare, we were big on making sure that we had a plan. As the governor had mentioned, it's a gradual reopening. And to make sure that we were prepared and we were ready, we had a plan. So what we did was we surveyed all 173 license offices and asked them for their suggestions on how to best ensure the safety of both our employees and our customers. And we put together a list of best practices, and we sent that out to each location. And we actually have people that check on those offices, and from what we're seeing, they are obeying the social distancing and the recommendations that we had on the best practice list.
Thank you.
What type of precautions are you guys taking inside the offices that are already open?
Well, along with the best practices, we did have social distancing. We have by appointment only. We have greeters now that meet you at the door that ask you if you're there for motor vehicle, if you're there for driver's license, to make sure that people don't congregate in any one specific area. Here in Jeff City, in the Jeff City office in the Truman Building, we actually have a staging area. And as I mentioned before, we have the virtual lobby that we can use to make sure that people don't congregate and get too close together. And we monitor the situation. So along with the best practices, ensuring that we're practicing social distancing, appointments, and just practicing general overall good hygiene, I think that we're in good shape.
All right, thank you, Director. Dr. Williams?
Thanks, Kelly. One thing before any questions, I do have a request for you. I was on the phone last night with the pediatricians in Missouri and also talked to the physicians every Saturday morning. And they've just asked me to talk with you about the fact of how important we think it is to get back into preventive care and to not delay procedures, especially the pediatricians mentioned immunizations. We would hate it that if because of COVID-19 that you didn't get that, but because you delayed an immunization, that something could happen to your child. So on behalf of them, I really want to encourage people to do their well child visits, well woman visits, and for that matter, everyone to keep up with their physicals. And so anything you could do to help get that message out would be greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Williams.
Yes,
some people are thinking about their summer vacations already, and if they travel somewhere and then come back to Missouri, is there any sort of order in place that would require them to quarantine based on where they've traveled?
There is not at this point, although I've been told that about 13 states have something in effect like that. So I would just caution people before they travel to other states that they check out those situations.
I mean, you don't feel that would be necessary here?
We do not at this point. Again, as you know, our numbers are trending down. We always ask that people, many of the airlines require you to wear masks now, and so we would just encourage people to use social distancing and hand sanitizer, whether they're driving or flying or going by train or whatever. So the answer is no.
Hi, Dr. Williams. We saw there's 13 new cases at a Audrain facility, or 13 cases that were linked to a hog farm.
Yes.
And so my first question would be, is the state sending any additional resources or contact tracing? Kind of what is the state doing at that hog farm?
Yeah, I just got off the phone with that. We do a lot of things well, but one we do particularly well is work very closely among the departments. We work well together. So I just got off the phone with Chris Chin, who's Director of Agriculture, and we're aware of that. There's 60 employees there. 13 have tested positive at this hog farm. It shows how important this whole process is to our food chain. So yes, we're working on that now to work with them and to contact them to see how we can help them with that area. That's not a true food processing plant. That's a farm, but it's all part of the chain. So we very much want to help with that.
And is this becoming more of an issue in rural areas? Because we've seen large amounts of cases in the St. Louis region and things like that. Is this now becoming a concern in rural areas? You know what?
As we look at that, you take Saline County, which has a high case ratio compared to the population. When you look at that, they tend to be very closely affiliated with our food processors. If you look at Buchanan and Montauk and Saline County. And so, yes, and that trend is being repeated nationally. And that's one reason the governor and all of us are so emphatic about increasing our testing, because we think we have to get in to our about 15 food processing plants going forward and doing sentinel testing and repeat testing and just very quickly try to identify cases there before they multiply into the 13 cases you're seeing at this hog farm, and obviously the 400 plus cases you saw up at Triumph and Buchanan. So yes.
With about 10% of cases of tests being positive, is it at all reasonable to extrapolate how many Missourians have or have not had it yet, or do we just not know that at this point?
We don't know, Philip. We're gonna look at that. I'll give you another reason testing is so important. Back to the very first point I made, the governor and I were on a call on Saturday morning, and as you know, they're doing pre-op testing now with COVID-19 for patients who are having non-emergent surgery. And the governor and I were told on Saturday that at one hospital here, out of 1,200 people, only one tested positive. And so that information is very reassuring as we hear that just people coming in completely unrelated to COVID-19, that almost all of them are testing negative. As we're doing our surveillance testing and our community-wide testing, which we're getting ready to do a lot more of, those numbers just give us a great degree of comfort to tell people that you need to reemerge into your health care, that you need to go to the doctor, you need to go get checked out, because in fact, when we check those people who are showing up, the vast, vast majority are negative. The number that we probably look at, and this is not good numbers, but around the country, I think the estimate is in areas that have any kind of prevalence that maybe 1 out of 20 people will ultimately be shown to have antibodies. but I don't want to misrepresent that. That's not Missouri unique data, and that's certainly not robust data at this point.
We were just talking about sentinel testing. How soon can you expect some of that to roll out across more of the population?
What time is it? We are trying to get on that as quick as we possibly can. Right now, I just left a meeting of 100 people, I guess, in state government, in which we're rolling out. We have 50 long-term care facilities that have one case that haven't finished their comprehensive testing, and we'll be working through the day and tomorrow to get all that done for those. We also very much have a plan going forward for our sentinel testing, which will be our long-term care facilities, our state employees, our congregated facilities such as meatpacking plants and prisons and jails, even summer camps. And so I think that will be executed by Monday or Tuesday.
All right, thank you, Dr. Williams.
Thank you, Kelly.
Governor Parson?
Yeah, let me just make a quick comment on testing, just to kind of follow up the question you just asked Dr. Williams there. We're going to do more testing. My directors know how important that is. We have a lot of resources in place, and we're going to execute that. And you're going to see that happen on that. Let me say one other thing about this testing, because we all get wrapped around the numbers all the time when we're reporting. So you can kind of spin the numbers however you want to spin them. But the reality of it is, of 154,000 people that we've tested since the beginning of this, probably less than 0.5%, less than 0.5% has been in the hospital of that 154,000. So if you kind of put that in content, I think it's important for people to know that sometimes. I think it's important to know of the 10, 11,000 people that have tested positive, we have less than 1,000 people in the hospital today. We have probably somewhere around 700, but it changes every day. So, as we do the balancing act to get the economy going and making sure we get the confidence of the people out there, you need to understand the majority of the people go home and get over this. They really do, and I think it's important they know that as we move forward. And you need to know, again, I can't stress to you enough, when we just say those numbers are out there, we never talk enough about the high-risk people. And you need to keep reminding them. I think I do, you do as the media, need to make sure the people that are high risk, you need to mention that, hey, you're the ones that really we've got to pay attention to here, and we've got to take the extra steps to protect people. So I think it's important. The numbers, there's a lot of numbers out there, a lot of spin in it, but hopefully we're trying to get that information to you and to the general public every day on really where it stands. The other thing I want to say about testing, St. Louis has got a lot of attention. Good, bad, indifferent they have because of the situation. But the reality of it is, rural Missouri, just because where they set, doesn't make them any less to have an outbreak of this virus as we move forward. It's just smaller numbers. And one thing, rural Missouri, guy coming from that country, you pretty well practice social distancing every day to a certain degree in those areas. But as soon as you start bunching people up in bunches, you can have the same problem that anywhere else can have on a public transit system or any other place. So everybody's got to pay attention here. Just because you live in rural Missouri and there's not been a lot of cases out there yet, it doesn't mean you can totally relax and think everything's going to be fine. Kurt?
Speaking of bunching people up, are you considering canceling the July 4th fireworks at the Capitol? I think Holt Summit yesterday announced that they were canceling. Is that something you've considered?
I haven't talked to the mayor here in town. It's not even on the radar yet, I guess, fireworks yet. The one thing I would say about firework displays on the 4th of July, I think that would give you an opportunity to practice social distancing. You could still have that and do alternative ways to be able to see the fireworks. But I haven't talked to the city or the mayor about that situation. Again, right now, I'm totally trying to get the economy going back, trying to fight COVID-19, and trying to move forward here in the next week or two, and then we'll figure out those things.
On the withholds for the budget,
yes.
You said you're going to talk with education officials tomorrow. Is that a signal that they're going to take some of these cuts?
Yeah, most certainly. If we don't have the ability to backfill that in some way, and right now I don't believe that is the case under the circumstances we're in, so I'm going to tell them that they need to prepare. And I would say have plan A and have plan B. But look, the schools need to know where we're at in the state of Missouri simply because they got to start working on contracts. School's going to be opening up, and they need to start preparing for that to make decisions. So I think it's important the quicker I get that information to them so they can make those decisions. But I'm telling you, under the current budget that I know, the guidelines that we have to move forward, about everything's going to be on the table to have to do either withholds or to figure out how we're going to balance the budget.
Hi, Governor. Kind of going off of that, I've spoken with some representatives that they feel pretty confident that we're going to get federal funding. Has that changed for you, or do you have any idea of why?
You know what? I talked to the White House yesterday, the president, the vice president. That was brought up. I was talking to all the governors across the United States. I've talked to the federal delegation, and I just think there's a lot of uncertainty on where that's moving forward right now. There's a lot of things when it comes to that on that CARES Act. There's a lot of things out there. Are you going to bail states out? Are we not going to bail states out? Can you file bankruptcy? All this kind of stuff, But at the end of the day, my view from as a governor is the federal government to help us like they have with COVID-19. But I'm not asking the federal government to bail our state out. That's not their place. I think they can help in the fight with COVID-19, but I want to be real careful when I say that too, to realize I don't want some state over here that's a bad manager and did a terrible job running their states to have an advantage over us that does it right. And a comparison, I know one state yesterday in the media that was out bonding, and the bonds where they were paying like over 5% for bonds because their credit ratings are so terrible. We're in Missouri. Last year we did our bridges and we did our infrastructure. We paid a little over 1% because we take care of our money and we take care of our obligations in the state, and we're going to continue to do that. Look, we can balance the budget, but if we get the economy going, things are going to be sooner, and that's just it. So you've got to be able to do both. But we can't turn the economy around in the state of Missouri in 30 or 60 days, and it's going to take a while to get us back there. So not to be realistic about this and not tell people kind of the truth of where we're at, we're kidding ourselves for doing that. And that's just not the way I operate. I mean, you got to tell people where we're at.
You mentioned withholds within the next week to 10 days and then again on July 1st. So just to be clear, are you talking more withholds for 2020 and then additional ones for 2021?
Correct. Yeah, the ones that we would be doing in the near future would be just to get us through the end of this year still. We still got a little bit of work to do there. And then 21, we're going to be talking about the budget which just passed.
Just based on the scope of the conversations with departments you're outlining, how would you characterize these cuts? I mean, I know you're probably not prepared to give a number, but is it more than what we've seen so far? Or?
More than we've seen so far as in withholds or in cuts?
Well, either one, I guess.
Well, yeah. That's a little bit of a lengthy discussion. But then again, I would say what's real cuts and what's not real cuts. So the bottom line is we're going to have to look at real dollars, real revenue compared to where we're at revenue. And it's a guessing game. Nobody knows what this revenue is going to do. I'm optimistic that I think things in this state could possibly be turned around late third quarter, fourth quarter. I think it will. However, I'm trying to figure that situation out. But right now, I have to prepare that we don't have the means to balance the budget. We don't have the funding to do that right now. So we're going to have to make withholds. And again, I want to be upfront with people about that.
Does that pretty much guarantee a special session on the budget at this point? Or?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I mean, the legislators were just here. They did their part, what they thought was a balanced budget. They sent that to the governor's office, and now I have to deal with that. And it's pretty well that simple. And if the money's not in there to be able to do, then I got to do withholds. And at the end of the day, my job is to balance the budget regardless of what anybody else does, and that's what I'm going to do.
Governor, just wanted to follow up with some people who continue to try to access unemployment and get your take on how things are going there. We've had some people say they still had trouble getting through on the phone or being disconnected.
Well, the phone's been an issue, and we're getting better at that every day. But I think you also got to realize 2 weeks ago, probably we was doing about 100,000 claims a week, and now we're down to less than 30,000, So things are getting better on that end. The only thing I can do is apologize for the people that went through that. It's been frustrating to get through that. But again, I can only tell you it's never happened before, and it was overwhelming for a while, and it's just a matter of getting through the system. I hate it if people are out there on a phone for 3 hours. Some of the reports that I get that somebody sat there and they've got cut off and they've got to go through the whole process again. We got to do a better job in that. I mean, that's not what we want people doing. So I know the directors are over there encouraging people to go online to make things to where they can file for the unemployment, things that are a quicker process. I know that's a lot better way to go. But, and honestly, we still get people calling in every day just asking questions. It's not about the claims, it's just trying to get through the system. So it's been challenging. You know, there's no way to sugarcoat that. It's just been challenging. But, you know, we got to do better every day. And that's what we're trying to do. And the director's trying to do that too. All right. Thanks, everybody, for being in today. Thank you.